Hello everyone, and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Whitney and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I am Tennille.
And I'm Whitney, and today we're taking a look at Fantasia 1981. Sorry, Heavy Metal.
It's an anthology.
It's kind of like Fantasia.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a very apt comparison. Even the director compares it to Fantasia.
Mm-hmm. It's similar in Fantasia, where it's a bunch of anthology. It's an anthology, so it's a bunch of small, segmented, episodic stories that are all just kind of put together. The difference between this and like something like Fantasia is it's not directly correlated to music.
Yeah.
They all have music.
By the title, you could probably guess what kind of music.
Yeah. But it's not like to the beat of the music or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to say here right off the bat is that this movie is a cult classic, but it is a cult classic neither of us have experienced before.
Yes.
So we are coming at this with fresh eyes. However, we also watched the movie with a couple of people who either watched this growing up, watched it several years ago, or saw it like when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Another stipulation we should put down, this movie is rated R. It is an adult movie with lots of nudity, violence, blood, sex, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try my best to not show any of it when I edit this together, but
good luck.
It's probably going to be a lot more of leaving it up to your own imagination, because I can't show anything, because naked people are...
There's boobies everywhere.
Yeah. So if you're below the age of watching a rated R movie...
Or that kind of thing just makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip out on this one.
Yeah, join us back here next time as we watch something else.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, I can't stop you from watching this if you are underage. So
right.
Let's go ahead and talk about this movie. Actually, before we start, who brought us this movie?
This was distributed by Columbia Pictures, but it is an American-Canadian project.
Yeah, it's across many studios, I can only assume.
Yeah, so the director himself is Gerald Potterson, who's actually a British-Canadian director.
Okay.
And then there was a bunch of different animation houses brought in to work on this film. Frustratingly, though, I can't seem to find out exactly what all different animation houses worked on this. I don't know if I just wasn't looking in the right places, but I tried Googling it and I wasn't finding the answers I wanted. However, if you're a longtime fan of this show, one of our darlings has worked on this film.
Oh, yes.
Alison Batchelor.
Yes. A British company.
Yeah. Longtime viewers of the show will probably recognize Alison Batchelor. As a reminder, they're the ones who did the film Rudiger, and they always just kind of keep showing up. There's basically nothing on their Wikipedia page, but it's a husband and wife ran company, and they just keep showing up in these unexpected but pleasant places where I'm just like, yes!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to see them again.
So they helped work on a couple of these shorts. Not all
quite a few.
Oh, really?
I mean, they're at least listed as, sequence directors for, pretty much all of the shorts.
Neat.
Yeah.
Because there's 7 or 8 of these segments, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Technically 9.
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we want to get into the summary?
Yes, we're going to get into a summary. So, a lot of this is just going to be very brief summaries of each of these sections, because otherwise we'll be here for an hour and a half, which is the length of the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, as the title implies, heavy metal, the whole theme of this thing is very dark, edgy, kind of sci-fi, fantasy-esque things. So there's a lot of lore you could put into this if you wanted, but it's mostly wish fulfillment fantasy stuff.
For young boys.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
Oh, yeah.
So
This was written with no one else in mind but 12-year-old boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or adult men who still think that they're 12-year-old boys.
For the 12-year-old boy inside every adult man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't this based on like a comic series or something? Okay.
Yes. I'm going to say yes. It's based on a story. I don't know what medium that story takes place in, but I think all these stories come from like a comic series that was being written.
Mm-hmm. Or like a magazine series or something. Who knows? That's not important to this particular part of the show. So, we start off with the segment called Soft Landing, which is our opening credits segment. And it's about a Corvette being launched from an American realistic spaceship, falling through the atmosphere, landing on a planet, and pulling up to a house.
Cool.
It's like, all right, sure, that... If you like cars, that seems silly enough.
Spaceships.
Mm-hmm. I know this segment has been paid homage to or spoofed 1,000,000 times.
It's a little clunky looking because I think we're going to have to kind of stop and talk about
each segment
art direction.
as we talk about them.
Right.
So that's the first segment right there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's probably not the best opener because, like, I don't know, it's very of its time. It's got that rotoscoped / filmed, and then it was just like the
thrown
footage
through
was
some processing
to make it look like it's animation, but it's really just film.
It's a little awkward because the car never looks like it's actually moving through space or driving. The wheels don't turn or anything. They're just it just kind of sits there and it like rotates on the screen. And then it's on the ground, and then it's driving. But, like...
It's a very short segment, so we shouldn't spend too long on it. But, like, it's not bad. It's a little clunky.
Mm-hmm. Our next segment is called Grimaldi. So the astronaut from the car gets out. He goes inside his house out in the middle of nowhere. And he's got some special something to give to his daughter?
I guess.
And she's like, what is it? And then he opens it up, and it's a green orb that vaporizes him.
Yeah! It's pretty sick.
And then it goes to the girl, and it's like, I am the Lochnar. What an 80s name.
The Lochnar.
The evil is called Lochnar. And it's like, I'm going to show you a bunch of...
I am malice and evil incarnate.
I am pure evil, and I'm going to show you a bunch of stories that vaguely have something to do with me because a green orb is present in all of them and has varying levels of...
And that was me, and I was evil.
It has varying levels of actually being important or not to the story.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the connecting through line. So it's this evil orb going to be telling these stories to this little girl that he's going to vaporize at the end of the movie.
Yes.
So the first story is called Harry Canyon in 2031 New York City. He's a cab driver. And while it's technically very 80s future punk looking, it's really just like a gangster noir film.
Yeah.
It's just this guy talking about how the world is shit. And he found a dame being attacked by some gangsters, so he saved her. He's not sure why he did it. And then they bonk. And
this one and another sequence or short in particular, I'm like, there has to be people who worked on either Ralph Bakshi films or American Pop who worked on this.
Because it's very rotoscope.
So similar.
It's very rotoscope and grungy rotoscope.
Right, like the way the story is told is so similar. The way the animation is done is so similar. The type of storytelling that it wants to do is so similar. I'm like, it has to be. But I don't know for sure. I could not confirm nor deny that. And I tried finding it and could not find anything.
So the cab driver helps this lady. They sleep together. And then she's... Yeah. Out of nowhere.
So shallow. Everything is so shallow. Oh.
eventually she's like, I'm gonna sell the evil orb to the bad guy. And then she sells the evil orb, and then they're driving away, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna keep all the money for myself instead of splitting it 50-50. Mm-hmm. So he vaporizes her with his special cab, and that's the end of the short.
I want to talk about that for a second.
Uh-huh.
Do all futuristic cabs have this vaporize the person in the back seat button that this guy has? Or is this guy a psychopath who just has this for his own protection and he's vaporized who knows how many New York citizens?
It's difficult to tell.
Either way, it's pretty messed up.
That's it. That's the whole short. To be honest, this is one of my least favorite shorts in the entire anthology. It's just not a story that I particularly vibe with.
Yeah, asshole detective noir thing.
That has that does nothing for me. Mm-hmm. So the next section is called Den. This one is also not terribly great in my book.
I don't know whether this is my least favorite one or my this is so bad it's actually pretty brilliant one. It's really bad. And I think it tips into the scale of being so bad it's good.
This one, more than any of the other segments, feels like it was written by a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, like just someone went into a...
Like, not even edited by adults, so bad.
Yeah, like someone went into a middle school class, stole some kid's comprehension reading notebook, and then stole their story and turned it into a short. Word for word.
So there's this nerd kid who finds the Lochnar in his, yard, and then it gets zapped by lightning when he's doing a science experiment because he's a nerd.
Uh-huh.
And it teleports him across time and space, and now he's in the body of a huge swole guy. And then he stops a human sacrifice, and the girl's like, thank you, and they immediately...
I'm also from Earth, actually.
And they immediately bonk. But then they're interrupted by a different tyrant who also wants to do the human sacrifice, but he needs the Lochnar.
He's also super gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This one's really problematic, but again, so juvenile and... poorly written, that, it's not threatening. You just kind of sit there and watch it, and you're like, what?
It's like, one of the two...
Oh, okay, sweetie.
the two villains of this story are a woman and a gay man.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, Den is forced to infiltrate the evil woman who was trying to do the sacrifice at the beginning, infiltrate her castle and steal the Lochnar to give it to the gay guy. And the evil queen catches him and is like, oh, bonk me. And so they do. They bonk. And then he has to go back to the pool at the beginning because now the gay guy has the Lochnar and he's going to do the human sacrifice with the girl.
Oh.
And then the main character comes in and zaps both of them with lightning again. And they presumably teleport back to Earth. He doesn't care because he's got the woman and he's going to stay on this cool, rad planet. And, I don't know.
Reminder, he's gone around and bonked all these ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, actually 12.
Yeah. And there's a line in there that says, wow, I'm 18 on Earth and I've never gotten with a woman like this. And I'm like, no, you're definitely 14, 15 at best.
The voiceover line can say that the character was 18 before this happened, but come on, look at this kid. This is obviously a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that one ends.
Yeah.
It's so juvenile. The writing is hilariously bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that kind of makes it enjoyable.
The other thing to talk about this one, I think it is the most unique stylistically. It uses very little colors. It's like very harsh lighting. It's not going so much for the gritty realism of a lot of the others. It's just like a bit more stylized, and the colors are a bit more like, this is this color and this is that color. Like, you know? Or are you not seeing what I'm seeing?
No.
I don't know that it's necessarily in the short's favor either, because it looks just kind of out of place with the rest of the shorts.
It feels more roughly made, more childish than the others.
Yeah.
I think is a good way to look at it.
Another interesting thing to note is I saw an interview with the director who was asked, what are your favorite and least favorite segments? And he's like, this one wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It wasn't terribly great. I still think I'd rather watch this one than the stupid noir one again, though. This is a terrible start to the movie, by the way.
Yeah, it gets better as it goes along.
Like, these first two segments are probably the worst two, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm, but they do kind of set you up for, like, what to expect going forward.
Mm-hmm. It's like, alright, it's child fantasy fulfillment, bonking ladies, killing bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
Vaporizing things in gory ways.
And then most of the other segments aren't like that and are better.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Our next segment is Captain Stern, which is about a terrible white guy on in space court for the millions of terrible, horrendous things he's done. And he's perfectly fine and pretty sure he's going to get away with it because he paid off a guy to talk about how good he is. Unfortunately,
that's just depressing because it's
like, oh, that's just real life.
Oh, this isn't even like. This isn't even, you know, oh, look, the depressing dystopian future we have in front of us.
It's that's
just real life.
That's reality. So the guy he paid off finds the Lochnar, which is a little marble now. It doesn't matter what size or shape it is, really. And it makes him go crazy, and he's like, oh, Captain Stern's so good, except for the time he killed all those orphans.
Right.
And stuff like that. And eventually he just hulks out into this big monster. He's like, I'm gonna kill Captain Stern. And so then we get a sequence of him chasing Captain Stern around the ship, and the trial's thrown out at this point.
Right, because everyone's just panicking.
Mm-hmm. And eventually he corners Captain Stern, and Captain Stern's like, so how much did I owe you again? Here you go, here's all your money. And the guy like shrinks back down and is like, no problem, boss. So this was actually all just
part of the plan.
Part of the plan to just like ruin the trial.
Yeah.
Full stop.
But then Captain Stern kills the guy.
Yeah, he just throws him out an airlock.
Yeah.
Showing that he continues to be a terrible, shitty white guy.
Yep. Shock and surprise.
Wow. That's it. That's the whole segment.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one either. But, I mean, at least it's kind of funny. A little bit.
I definitely prefer this one.
If it didn't also make me depressed.
Like, I prefer this one over the last two. It has a more cartoonish art style and leans into it and is okay with being a little more goofy.
Right.
So I enjoy those aspects. I think a lot of the animation as well is just better.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool character animation in this one. Particularly
especially
on the guy who's like
twitching.
hulking out and like, because the you know, him pre-hulking out and then the hulking out are like two very different characters, so it's really fun to see that contrast. So that's a lot of really fun animation.
So I really enjoy those segments of it. Our next segment is called B17. It's about a World War II B17 Fighter Plane.
Oh, right. I forgot about this one.
How could you forget about one of the best segments in the entire thing?
I mean,
Okay.
There's a lot of them.
It's like 5 minutes long. It's
not
absolutely
a very long
one of the shortest segments in the entire
Yeah.
thing. It's a World War II fighter plane, and everyone dies, and so the co-pilot goes back to check on everybody, everyone's dead.
The Lochnar, like, comet crash lands into the plane too, doesn't it?
Yes, it goes into the plane and then turns everyone into zombies, which then eats the co-pilot. the pilot is able to escape onto like a tropical island, and then he
goes through the bushes and he sees that like it's a plane graveyard.
And then zombies are crawling out of all of the planes. Oh no! And then it's done.
Yeah.
It's like, that was great. It was short, simple, it was eerie, it was that.
It's grotesque where it needs to be.
Like, this one was almost perfect in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. It definitely, like, as they're going through the plane, it makes you, like, very unsettled.
I don't know if it's a bonus or a detriment, but I feel like there's very little music in this one. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly wondering if if the segment could be elevated just a little bit with a little bit of like creepy music stings and like tension rising music as he's wandering through the plane, because there's none of that. Mm-hmm. That's like the only change I would have made.
So, this is actually the director's favorite segment as well.
Well, yeah, it's good.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Plus, there aren't any ladies to be sexualized or brutalized in this one, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, that's a super bonus.
Yeah.
Next segment is So Beautiful and So Dangerous. And this is one of the weirder non sequitur segments. Mm-hmm. It starts off with a guy heading into the Pentagon because there's a lot of weird alien goings-ons and they're not addressing any of it. So he goes in and he reassures all the, military people and stuff. It's like, there's no such things as aliens. And then an alien ship comes and abducts him and the lady there that was like typing up the minutes.
She's got a brooch on, which I think is supposed to be
That's
the Lochnar.
Yes, she's got a green brooch. That's the Lochnar. It doesn't matter in this segment at all.
Yeah.
There's like no connection to the Lochnar in this particular segment. So they get beamed up, and it turns out the guy was a robot or something, and he like falls to pieces as they sucked him up.
He's an alien plant.
Yeah, he's like an alien robot plant to like throw people off from there being aliens.
Even though they have like a massive dead mouse spaceship.
Oh my god, it looks like Dead Mouse except without the ears. Uh-huh. It's uncanny.
Yeah, I'm glad that like everyone in the room was like, huh.
Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse.
And then there's a robot that kind of looks like a mouse. And he bonks the lady that gets picked up. And then they have like a really, I'm going to say, stereotypical straight person argument about them needing to get married, and she wants a Jewish wedding, and like, it's like, oh, this is a terrible relationship. Feels hilariously straight.
Feels like something that you would directly find in the Reddit. The straights are not okay. Mm-hmm. Also, meanwhile,
the pilots of the ship get really, really high on not drugs, or on space drugs.
It's just mountains of cocaine.
It's just an egregious amount. And then they crash the ship onto their home planet or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
This one really has nothing to do or nothing to say. It's just kind of a weird, non sequitur, sure.
Uh-huh.
This one is mostly unoffensive.
It's, again, more cartoony, which kind of makes it more fun. But also, it's just kind of got nowhere that it's going.
I will say this one gets points in my book for the sexualized female character actually having a character that seems to have agency in her own universe.
Yes, because the other ones are so paper thin, and don't get me wrong, like, she's not gonna be, like, breaking any records here for,
no, absolutely not.
Fully realized female character, but, she isn't just, like...
She's clapping back at, like, and it has sass, and, like...
Yeah. She's going with the flow of things, but, like, she's kind of into it, like, she's having a good time.
It's better.
It's better. It's not good.
No.
but it
is better. And this takes us to our final segment. What did I write? Is it Tarha?
Yeah.
Tarha. Tarka?
I think it's Tarha. Tarna.
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 My N's look like H's. I got really scribbly because I was running out of room.
That's...
Tarna. So, the Lochnar lands on a planet and then turns into goo, and then it turns a bunch of people into mutants, and then the mutants kill humans. And the humans are like, we're not fighters, we're scholars and diplomats and smart people. So we're going to call on our ancient vow with the Tarna, who will come and save us. Aren't they all dead? No, there's one alive. Will he come save us? Yes, we just got to chant their name a while. And then they all die.
Right.
And then we get a sequence of the Tarna warrior going to their ancestral homeland, and it's a beautiful woman.
Oh, she's actually awesome.
Oh, yeah,
I love
she
her.
is an absolute badass. And then we get an egregiously long segment of her taking off her clothes and swimming across a pool.
Yeah, she has to swim across
and then
the lake.
goes over to this super statue, and then very, very slowly and sexually puts on the skimpiest armor you ever did
Her
see.
bondage gear. I mean her armor.
This doesn't even work as bondage gear. It's just like the skimpiest armor. And then she
Right.
pulls a sword out. And
She's Xena, warrior princess.
she has the power.
Yeah.
She never speaks.
No. Well, no, she does.
No, she never speaks.
In the bar.
No, she does not speak.
Really?
Yeah, she literally just like gets her point across without ever speaking.
Oh, it felt like she was speaking to me.
Because she like, in that particular scene, she slaps the medallion down and pulls the barkeep's face down to it. She never says anything. She's never like, where can I find these guys or anything. She just never speaks, full stop.
Yeah. Huh.
So she goes to the place that got wrecked by the mutants. She finds a medallion. She takes the medallion over to this bar. She kills a few mutants, and she's like, the barkeep's like, where do I find them? She's like, go over that way. They're over by the glowing mountain.
Right.
She goes to the glowing mountain.
On her little
Pterodactyl baby.
pterodactyl baby bird mount.
They immediately get captured.
Yeah.
And then she's stripped naked and whipped and then thrown into a pit. And then they throw her clothes back to her. And then she immediately escapes. And then they chase her again. This whole segment is dumb and makes no sense for any reason other than, ooh, isn't it sexy that the heroine is captured and whipped by the bad guys?
Yeah, it's like, oh no, she's in trouble.
But she never was.
Yeah, that's...
It's just like...
More so, well, the worst part about this is that, like, the way the movie is framed, her captured, tortured, whipped, thrown into a pit is not played as sad and emotional as her little bird mount thingy being shot.
Mm-hmm.
That is given a lot more weight of like, oh, isn't this sad?
No, the heroine being
Brutalized
is more of a, ooh, isn't this kind of sexy in a dark way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, cool.
Cool. Yay.
Also, this is just like a complete non sequitur, but like they have her in this full body like capture device that I can't show you because she's completely naked in it. But she is front facing, and then they whip her from the front. But then when she's thrown in the pit, you see that she's only been whipped on the sides and the back.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't access her back from this machine that you had her strapped into.
Uh-huh.
Whatever.
Little continuity error.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Anyways, they chase her down and they shoot the bird and they crash into a canyon. And then the main bad guy, who has an awesome rockin' coat,
Yeah! Oh, I love this coat.
shows up with a little chainsaw hand. And then they fight for a bit and she like punches through his face.
She should have just been punching things this whole time.
Yeah, she didn't need a sword.
She got a mean left hook.
Like, you don't see it, but it's pretty clear that she caved in his entire skull.
Oh, yeah.
And then she flies off to the mountain where the... Oh, shoot, I've already forgotten what this stupid thing is called. the Lochnar is,
The
and it's like,
Lochnar.
I am pure evil, you cannot stop me. And then she turns into pure lightning and shatters it.
Well, it essentially says, like, in order to destroy me, you'd have to sacrifice something pure. And so she's like, that's me, bitch!
And she explodinates it.
Yeah.
Which then takes us back to the house with the little girl with the Lochnar telling the story. And he's like, oh no, I forgot, I got explodinated that one time. And then...
I shouldn't be here!
And so the little girl runs out of the house, and the Lochnar explodes, explodinating the house. And then the girl finds her own little pterodactyl because she is actually the reincarnation of the Tarna, here to save the universe for another generation or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she flies off, and that's the end.
Yeah. It's pretty badass, really. Like, it's kind of cool.
Reincarnated badass warrior women? Yeah, I'm down for it.
I'm down for that. So, this movie certainly lives up to its name, if only in theme and execution alone. It carries a lot of the tropes and problematic elements and just, like, ideas of heavy metal at the time.
You know, love, sex, and robots. Wait, what?
Don't step on my toes. We'll get there. That is my thing to reveal, not yours.
We can cut that out if you want.
No, it's fine. We'll get there. It's dark, edgy, very sexual, and extremely juvenile. It even was criticized in its day for it being very sexist and very juvenile. The reviews on this film were a mixed bag, but it was mostly positively received. And it was a moderate success. It had a budget of $9.3 million and a box office of $20.1 million. So
they got their money.
They did. They got their money. And again, this was directed by Gerald Potterson, who also did work on Yellow Submarine and Raggedy Ann and Andy's Musical Adventures. So it wasn't necessarily like a supervisor or anything like that for those movies, but worked on those films. This will get a sequel.
In 2000 or 99 or something?
Yeah.
It's called Heavy Metal 2000, so we'll get to it eventually.
And then, much to my surprise, I found out that then there was this long period of time where they were like, yeah, we're thinking of doing another heavy metal, but we're like, not, like it was all hush-hush and like nobody knew like what it was going to be. And eventually it was rebranded as Love, Sex, and Robots, which came onto Netflix.
Is it Love, Sex, Robots? Is it Love, Death, Robots?
Love, Death, and Robots.
Yes, Love, Death, and Robots.
Yes.
Which was a Netflix miniseries, which was the same idea of just a bunch of separated shorts made by a bunch of different people as an anthology series, and then...
Mm-hmm. Although I really think it's missing the... Like, I think it takes away a lot when you take away the...
Through line?
The backbone of this is inspired by heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you... At least for me, when I look at this... And it's like, this is heavy metal, and we have heavy metal songs in it. The juvenileness of it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, feels more...
acceptable?
Justified?
Yeah, because we're not going to talk about robots right
Love, Death, and Robots.
Other than, I just want to quickly say is...
We watched it when it came out, and we hated it.
We hated it because it came out in 2019, and it was just as juvenile as this movie.
If not worse at times.
And it came out in 2019.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like making the argument of it's a product of its time much, but heavy metal is a product of its time, which makes its incredible juvenile sexism and other bullshit a little more acceptable.
Right. And like I've said before in this review, it's very unthreatening. And I think that's a big part of why this doesn't bother me as much as, like, some Ralph Bakshi films, where, you know, I watch a Ralph Bakshi film, I feel a little threatened. Mm-hmm. I feel like my safety is a little bit on the line while watching a Ralph Bakshi film, even if it's not targeting me personally. This, not so much. This I feel I can just kind of laugh at when it's being ridiculous, because it's ridiculous. It doesn't excuse it, it's just kind of like, I don't feel as icky watching this.
Yeah. Now, we never really talked about the production quality of the final segment.
Oh, yeah!
But it was 30 minutes of this hour-and-a-half movie.
Yeah! A lot of the production went into this last segment.
And you could tell.
It looks really good.
It's this giant, epic, like, character designs are good. Mm-hmm. I wish the main character had more armor, well. But, like, you know.
You know.
Like, it's paced incredibly well. They use rotoscope effectively for the character designs here. I think the only detriment to the heavy use of rotoscope in this particular segment is when it comes to the fight sequences. They all feel very slow. Very slow and floaty, and the movements don't have punch. There's a shot of where she's like chopping off a couple of guys' heads. A sword. And it's like, yeah, that's how you'd swing a sword if you were stage acting. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it takes 3 times as long as if it was animated. Yeah, if you're an animated character, badass warrior woman swinging a sword at this big hulking guy who has a chainsaw hand, you'd put a little bit more force behind it. Mm-hmm. Just like, you know, a little bit. But like that's my only real complaint with like the animation itself in this segment. Mm-hmm. Like it has broad sweeping shots and stuff. Yeah. It's epic and it knows it is and that's what it wants to be and it succeeds. Yeah, it succeeds in all those things. It's not trying to be epic and really up its own ass. It's just kind of like, whoa, wouldn't this be cool? And you're like, yeah, that's cool, dude. Man, this almost feels like it could be in, like, Star Wars or something, which it definitely wants to be. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that the Tarna section is tied for me with the B17 for my 2 favorites from this whole movie. I think that watching just those 2 segments alone is, like... That would be a good heavy metal experience. If you wanted to skip out on the rest of them, like, save yourself some time. However, you know, I think the badness of some of the earlier segments makes these better. These ones better. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It's not a film I can necessarily recommend, but it's not a film that I disliked watching. It was fun. Yeah. Hilariously enough about the music itself. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the music at all. There's a lot of like branded actual heavy metal music, but apparently not that much. According to someone we watched with who watched this movie when it came out and knows a lot about music, they told us, was like, nah, they have Devo in here. There's not a lot of real heavy metal in this movie called heavy metal. Right. And like, sure, I'll believe you. I don't really know a lot about metal music or... the history of music. Yeah, so, like, I believe it. I'll take their word for it. Yeah, again, I definitely think this is a film that lives up to its name in theme and structure and story beats and that kind of thing, but not necessarily in, like, we're gonna give you a heavy metal concert in the form of a movie. God, if only. Can we have a Fantasia heavy metal music? That would be great, but also the licensing. Oh, the licensing would be hell. Yeah. But, like, I'd watch that. I love Fantasia shit. This is still okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to recommend it for people with the caveat of knowing that it is a very mixed bag. A product of its time that was criticized for being sexist and juvenile for its time. Yeah. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think the segments that are cool to look at are still very cool to look at. Mm-hmm. And the animation that is good is really good. Yes.
So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up this review of Heavy Metal. So join us back here next time as we leave North America and go to the opposite end of the the planet.
Okay.
We're going to Australia.
Oh!
We're going to watch Grendel.
Okay.
Which visually looks really cool, and I am excited to see what this movie has to offer.
Awesome.